The market smells like salt and cold water before the sun is even up. Buckets clatter, wet pavement glistens under the first lights. Somewhere ice is being shoveled into plastic tubs, that dry scraping hiss cutting through the quiet like a small alarm clock for the whole street. This is when he shows up. Not late, not early, almost to the minute. Like he's checked a clock somewhere no one can see. An orange cat, thin around
What
the
can I get
shoulders,
for you this
fur
morning?
damp at the edges.
I'll have the steamed
Steps out
buns and a
from
bowl of
between
soup.
two stalls and walks straight toward the fish seller's table like he's done it 100 times before. Because he has. The seller doesn't even look up anymore. He just reaches for a small fish, tosses it down without breaking his rhythm, and goes back to sorting the morning catch. The cat eats fast. Head low, eyes half on the food, half on everything else. Then something the seller still hasn't quite gotten used to happens. The cat doesn't leave. He sits, not near the exit, not tucked in some safe corner, right beside the fish, like the empty space next to the buckets was always meant for him. At first, the other stall owners barely notice. A stray cat hanging around a fish stand isn't exactly rare. But as the days pass, a few of them start to look twice. He isn't begging. He isn't crying for more or swatting at scraps that fall to the ground. He just sits, watching. His eyes move with the market, tracking hands, tracking baskets, tracking the flow of people the way something does when it's paying attention for a reason, not out of boredom. A regular customer steps up to the display one morning, reaching for a fish near the edge of the ice. The cat rises, not startled, not defensive, just alert. He moves a step closer, tail low, eyes fixed on the exchange like he's making sure it goes the way it's supposed to. The customer laughs, glancing at the seller. Is he yours now? The seller shrugs, but there's something in the way he says it. He just showed up one day, never really left. That's the part nobody can quite explain. Most strays pass through. They eat, they scatter, they don't come back until hunger brings them around again. This one is different. This one returns like it's a job. Rain comes without warning one morning, the kind that turns the pavement into a mirror and sends half the market ducking under tarps. Customers thin out. Stalls start closing early. The cat stays. He presses himself against the wooden leg of the table, ears back, fur darkening with water, and doesn't move. The seller glances down at him more than once, like he's trying to work something out. Finally, he pulls an old crate closer to the stall, angles it against the wind, and nods toward it without a word. The cat looks at the crate, looks at the seller, then climbs in. It isn't much, just cardboard and a little shelter from the worst of it, but the cat curls into it like it's the safest place he's found in a long time. The next morning, he's back at his spot by the fish, like the rain never happened. The seller starts noticing the small things now. How the cat never eats everything he's given, even when he seems hungry. How some mornings he leaves before the market gets busy, disappearing down the same narrow alley every time. How he never once tries to steal, only ever waits. "Where do you go?" the seller mutters one afternoon, watching the orange shape slip between two shuttered stalls and vanish. He doesn't get an answer, not yet. But something about the way the cat moves, quick, deliberate, like there's somewhere he actually needs to be, makes the question sit heavier than it should. A stray without a home doesn't usually have somewhere to be. The morning starts like any other, except the cat isn't himself. He sits by the fish for only a moment before standing again, glancing toward the far edge of the market. He paces a few steps, comes back, then paces again, tail flicking low and quick. The seller watches him from behind the counter, a fish still in his hand. "Something wrong with you today?" The cat doesn't answer, obviously, but the restlessness doesn't stop. He walks a few feet away from the stall, looks back once, then keeps going. It's the first time the seller has ever seen him walk away from food still sitting untouched on the ground. Something about it doesn't sit right. The seller sets the fish down, wipes his hands, and does something he's never done before. He follows. The cat moves quickly through the narrow spaces between stalls, past stacked crates and coiled hoses, past the noise of the market fading behind them. He doesn't look back to check if he's being followed. He just keeps moving, like he already knows exactly where he's going. They reach the edge of the market, where the stalls thin out and the ground turns to cracked concrete and old forgotten boxes. It's quieter here, shadowed, the kind of place most people walk past without a second glance. The cat slips behind a stack of broken crates. The seller hesitates, then follows, crouching low to peer into the narrow gap behind them. And there, tucked into a nest of torn cardboard and old cloth, sheltered from the wind and the worst of the weather, is something he never expected to find. Kittens, small, huddled together, barely more than a few weeks old, blinking up at the sudden light. The seller goes still. For a moment he doesn't move at all, just crouches there, taking it in, while the cat steps carefully past him and settles beside the small huddled shapes. It hits him slowly, one piece at a time. Why the cat never seemed satisfied with a single meal. Why he sometimes carried fish away instead of eating it. Why he stayed through the rain instead of finding shelter for himself alone. Why he watched every hand near the fish display like he was keeping track of something that mattered. He wasn't guarding the stall. He was gathering what he could, whenever he could, and bringing it back here. The seller sits back on his heels, quiet, watching the cat nose gently at one of the kittens, checking it the way you'd check on something fragile and important. All those mornings, all those strange little habits that never quite made sense. They make sense now. This cat hadn't been hanging around a fish stall out of laziness or hunger alone. He'd been working a job nobody gave him, showing up every single day, rain or shine, because somewhere behind the market, something small and helpless was depending on him too. The seller thinks about all the times he joked about hiring a new employee. He isn't laughing now. He looks at the kittens, thin, still too small, but alive, warm, cared for in whatever rough way a stray cat could manage. He looks at the orange cat curled protectively around them, still watchful even here, even now. "You weren't waiting for me at all," the seller says quietly. "You were just trying to feed them." The cat glances up at him, calm, steady, the same watchful look he always wears at the stall. The seller sits there a long moment, the sounds of the market still going somewhere behind him, muffled and distant. For the first time he understands the whole shape of it, the routine, the patience, the refusal to ever fully leave. It was never about him. It was never even really about the fish. It was about this small, hidden corner of the world, and the quiet, exhausting work of showing up for it every single day. He stands slowly, looking down at the little family tucked into the cardboard, and something in his chest shifts. He isn't just going to walk away from this. The next morning, the fish stall looks the same as it always has. Same buckets, same wet pavement, same early light cutting through the market fog. But something underneath it all has changed. The seller arrives earlier than usual. Before he even starts sorting the catch, he sets a small dish aside. Not scraps, not leftovers, but a portion set apart on purpose. When the cat appears, right on time as always, he doesn't rush toward the fish display the way he used to. He pauses instead, glancing at the seller, almost as if checking. The seller nods toward the dish. "This one's yours, all of it." The cat approaches slowly, sniffing once before settling in to eat, unhurried in a way he never has been before. There's no glancing over his shoulder, no tension in his shoulders, no rush to carry anything away. For the first time he simply eats like an animal who knows more is coming. Over the following days, the seller begins setting food aside every morning, sometimes wrapping a little extra in cloth and carrying it himself to the quiet corner behind the market. At first, the kittens shrink back at his approach, small bodies pressing into the cardboard, wary of anything that isn't their mother. But the orange cat doesn't stop him. He watches, calm, present, letting the seller get closer with each visit. Slowly, the fear starts to fade. One morning, the seller notices something by the edge of the stall that wasn't there before. A small shape, low to the ground, peeking out from behind a crate, then another, then a third. The kittens have followed their mother out of hiding for the first time. They stay close to her, cautious, ears flicking at every unfamiliar sound, but they're here, in the open, blinking against the morning light. The orange cat sits near them, alert as ever, watching the market the way she always has, except now there's nothing left to hide. Customers start to notice. A few stop mid-step, pointing, smiling at the sight of the small family tucked near the fish stall. Word moves through the market the way it always does. Quietly, quickly, one stall to the next. "That's the cat," someone says. "The one who's been coming here every morning. She wasn't just hanging around," another replies. "She had a whole family to feed." The seller doesn't correct them or add much to the story. He just keeps setting food aside every morning, watching the kittens grow steadier on their feet, watching them creep a little closer to the stall each day until eventually they're no longer creeping at all. Weeks pass. The kittens grow braver, sturdier, no longer the fragile, huddled shapes tucked behind broken crates. They chase loose scraps of paper across the pavement. They tumble over each other near the base of the stall. They learn the way their mother once did, exactly when the market opens and exactly where the fish will be. And through it all, she never stops showing up. Every morning she takes her place beside the display, watching the rhythm of the market the way she always has. But her posture is different now, softer, steadier. She isn't scanning for threats or rationing herself for someone else's sake. She simply sits, present, unhurried, like an animal who has finally stopped carrying the weight alone. The seller still calls her his employee, half joking, the way he always has. But there's something more sincere in it now, because what started as a stray looking for scraps became something the whole market quietly looks forward to each morning. A small, steady reminder that loyalty doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it just shows up, day after day, asking for nothing, until one day you finally understand why. She never came back for herself. She came back because someone was waiting on her to.